everyone, and welcome to Netflix Roulette. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And finally, we are bringing this series back for our summer TV hiatus. This is the series that we like to do in the summer when we're not reviewing Arrow and other superhero TV shows, where we're going to be talking about movies that we've never seen before on Netflix. Of course, by the time we actually do the podcast, we will have seen the film.
Nope,
And
going in completely blind.
That's right. Today we're going to talk about a movie that we didn't watch. We just looked it up on Wikipedia, and here it is. No, today Eric chose a movie called In Bruges, or alternatively we could call it Bullseye versus Voldemort. And Eric, why don't you go ahead and start us off? Tell us a little bit about what this movie is and who's in it and stuff.
Okay, so it stars Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson as Ray and Ken. Essentially, Colin Farrell plays Ray, who's a hitman who, on his first assignment, he accidentally killed a kid. And then their boss, Ralph Fiennes, who he's just like a mob boss guy, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if he was a mob. It seems like he just runs like like a black market conglomerate of assassins.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Of hitmen.
We don't get a lot of him, but basically he tells Brand Gleeson to take Colin Farrell to Bruges, and then you find out that the reason that they're in Bruges is because it's like a fairy tale town, and he wants to give Colin Farrell something nice before Brand Gleeson has to kill him, and then that's the thing is. Because he killed a kid, he now has to die.
Yeah, and he sends him there because he thinks that's going to be one last nice place for him to visit.
And kind of the joke is he doesn't like it there and thinks it sucks.
Yeah, that it's this really awful European town, and he doesn't like, and everybody apparently in England or at least London hates Belgium.
Are they Belgium? I thought they were Irish. Yeah.
I thought they were from London. Like he's an Irishman, but at least the last job he did was in London.
Well, they're both Irish, so I thought they were Irish.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's the Irish doesn't like.
Well, Belgium. He hates everyone. He hates Americans.
Yeah.
There's something else that he hates midgets.
Yeah. Like little people. There's a whole thing about little people and what they prefer to be called.
Do you ever think about killing yourself? Because you're a little person.
Because you're a midget. Wow, I couldn't. Oh man, this is a very offensive film.
Yeah. I mean,
or should I say it's a film with a very offensive character, and a lot of the kind of black comedy comes from that. And if you're easily offended, you'll either not like this movie, or you might like it because this guy sort of kind of gets what's coming to him. I guess, kind of.
Well, and it's a hard R, at least with the language and
the language, especially, yeah.
And then near the end, we get some kind of violent. I mean, well, there's some really violent stuff near the end. So
yeah, well, there's one thing in particular that we'll talk about a little bit later that's really visceral.
Yeah,
and I think one of the best person drops off a building scenes I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I've ever thought to compare those.
well, I think it's this and the one from the beginning of Kick-Ass. I think those are...
Oh, man.
If I had to rank person dropping off a building. Well, and then I'd throw the one from Groundhog's Day in there. That's a good one.
Well, I think here I'm putting it above the rest because it was a very emotional scene, and I cared about that guy. And everything else you're talking about was either a person that you didn't know anything about and wouldn't have cared about, and also just you knew he was gonna make it because time starts over.
No, I know what you're saying. I was just trying to rattle off jumping off building scenes.
No, that was hilarious. Let's and I'm sitting here trying to think of more of those. No, let's talk first about the city itself, because I think this is one of those movies where the setting is paramount.
Oh yeah, this is one of those stories where like you hear when people write about something like, well, I wanted to make this city a character. Bruges is a character.
Bruges is kind of a character, yeah. The kind of odd relationship I had with this movie was one of our main characters, and I think perhaps I'm supposed to feel this way. One of our main characters hates this place. The other one likes it for the history, and uh, he's Ray is talking about how oppressive this place is, and the more time they spend there, the more I wanted to go there.
Yeah, it was really nice there, especially when the mist sets in and like it really has that. It looks like a really cool place.
I kept comparing this in my head to a movie from the late 70s that I reviewed a few years ago called Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, that is it's kind of a supernatural thriller set in Venice. And it depicts Venice as this because Venice is, of course, usually we think of as like the city of love, but that movie depicts it as this like really gross, awful, depressing place where all the buildings are dilapidated, it's all falling apart, and the main character is like afraid of water because his child drowned, and so he's constantly surrounded by water, and that's awful for him. So that movie through the whole thing makes you, or at least made me, not like Venice. Maybe not want to go there. And this movie, I kept trying to decide if it was trying to do that or if it was showing both sides of it. Because I understood why Ray didn't like it there, but I also understood why Ken did like it there. And I feel like the audience can't help but kind of side with Ken.
Well, and when you get to kind of the whole Ken killing Ray thing, it and then when Harry shows up, it's kind of like the city's out for Ray. So he
Yeah,
was almost kind of right.
but only for him.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure because you get to the end and he has this voiceover which I thought was perhaps unnecessary, but I always resist this. He has this voiceover at the end where he's like, "Well, maybe hell," which by the way, it was funny. Where he's like, "Maybe hell is just always having to be in effing Bruges." By the way, I think that in a world that was less concerned with people seeing profanity in titles, this movie would have been called In Effing Bruges,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so he says that at the end, and I'm like, okay, so for him, this place is like this hell he can't get out of because he gets on a train to leave after Ken refuses to kill him. He sends him on a train and says, go live your life. I think that even though you killed that kid, you have the potential to go make something of yourself and be a better person. And that's kind of what their relationship is about. And so he sends him off on this train, but then he meets up with these people that he had hurt earlier in the movie that he thought were Americans, and they turn out to be Canadians. And I wasn't real sure what that was all about
Well,
or why it's important that they were
yeah, it
Canadians.
was something about him hating Canadians.
Yeah, but he hated Americans too, I think.
Well, it seems like everybody in this film that is American, or at least the midget guy, is aware. Like he's like, I'm American. Don't hold it against me.
Yeah. It's like they expect to be kind of persecuted
Yeah,
for
there's a
that.
there's a global consciousness to all of the Americans.
And so anyway, so the idea that he gets on this train and then he ends up having to go back to Bruges because these people force him back in the city. And so you get kind of this so that idea is already sort of there before he spells it out in that voiceover of Bruges is his hell and he can't leave it. And like I said, I felt kind it was I had this kind of weird detached feeling because I didn't feel like it was hell for anybody but that guy.
Well, and hold on one second, I'm gonna sneeze. Um,
Bless you.
Thank you. Well, there's and the thing is, and I didn't really think of it in those contexts until that ending voiceover. But there's a lot of religious symbolism in this film, and there's a lot of discussion of heaven and hell, and where will you go, and what kind of person are you, and so it's constantly on his mind.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, American Psycho has a very similar ending too. But in this one, it's kind of ambiguous because as much as he hates being in Bruges, um, he also says, "I don't want to die." Um,
Yeah, and I do want to talk about that at some point because I wondered what in his uh, what in his character arc changed him to get there?
I think it's mostly the girl, right? And what happens to Ken.
Yeah, what bothered me about all of that was the voiceover.
Oh, okay.
Like if he had left, there's a certain part of the voiceover that if he had left out, I would have totally bought the line, I know I don't want to die. But what I thought was a little bit odd, and I do, and let me also say that I feel like I need to see this film again.
Oh, absolutely. I actually I watched it last night, and I wish I'd watched it earlier because I would have liked to watch it again before we did this.
Yeah, I wish I had watched it twice too, because there's so much in it and there's so much to digest, and it's hard not to watch it on different levels. It's that kind of movie where it's like, okay, it's funny and quirky, but then it's also like foreboding and kind of depressing, and it makes you think about a lot of different things, and we'll get into the themes. But so at the end of it, he's got this. There's a part in his voiceover where he says that what he hopes is that he survives this so that he can go not make amends with the family of the kid that he killed, but like go and be punished for that because he feels like he deserves that. And
Let
he
them
feels like
choose the punishment.
yeah, he should own up for that. And and he says he doesn't care if he gets thrown in jail or if he dies. That's the right thing. That's what he should do. That was the thing I wasn't sure what happened in the last 10 or 20 minutes with the shootout and everything got him to that place. I could see why he might want to continue to live because he maybe has things to live for now, especially with the girl. But what got him to the place of I want to take ownership for this instead of take the easy way out? And then I wondered if it wasn't just, well, he doesn't want to die in that city because he hates that city, but he was willing to die there earlier in the film when he tried to when he almost committed suicide.
Right. Um.
So I feel a little detached from all that. I don't really know exactly what changed in his character arc, and it seems to be something to do with Ken sacrificing himself for him.
Yeah, that has to be.
That has to be in there. But it also seems to have something to do with his confrontation with Harry and maybe even with the death of the little person.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I can't put it all together. I'm just not sure right now, and I feel like there's something I'm missing in putting all that together. But on a first viewing, I don't entirely understand the ending.
Yeah. Well, it feels like it's two different voiceovers. Like it should be one or the other.
Yeah. Or I'm just not. There's something I'm not getting.
Yeah, maybe. Because I did.
But then but I am criticizing the film for that because I feel like it's having trouble communicating its intentions.
I think that's fair.
But that is my complaint about the film. I really enjoyed the whole thing. I liked the juxtaposition between the comedy because it is funny, but it's very subtle comedy. It's very British.
Oh yeah.
Very British humor. And I really like the juxtaposition between that and how haunting the film is. This is one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a very long time.
Oh, it's a fantastic soundtrack.
I did spend my morning working on things in the house listening to the soundtrack.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, and it's fantastic. I've had this with the few foreign films like this that I've watched because I don't watch a whole lot of foreign films. It's one of the things I like about Netflix Roulette is we seem to always go to some of these foreign films. And there was a movie that came out in the early 2000s called Millelay, and I didn't care for the movie, but I cannot get enough of that soundtrack.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that seems to happen a lot. But I'm also like that with piano soundtracks. I'm a real sucker for that.
See,
For like
I don't
really,
listen to a
really
lot
haunting,
of to a lot
really
of
haunting piano scores.
I don't listen to a lot of scores. But I like I constantly hear people saying like, oh yeah, I'll put this score on while I'm driving around. Um,
Yeah, that's the thing I do.
well, and you're more musically inclined than I am. It seems to be something that more musically inclined people do.
Yeah, well, that's because people that are that have been involved in music tend to notice it more in movies.
Right.
So I think that's what it is. But I mean, surely even just watching this, you must have thought, wow, that piano music.
Oh no, it's great, but I wouldn't think to. I'm gonna listen to this while I'm doing dishes.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that's fair enough. But I'm just saying, do you agree that the score was quite
Oh
nice?
the scores are really good. Um, it's really it's just it adds to the atmosphere of everything. And it's a very atmospheric film. Um, which is kind of interesting because I feel like there's a version of this movie where there's no atmosphere at all, and it's just hitmen in this little city.
Maybe so, but one of the things I really liked about it was the. I thought that this was a very well paced film, especially the first two acts. I like the command of narrative and the rate at which the film decides to reveal things to us. Like honestly, I think, and I know I'm talking a lot about voiceover. I think the movie could have done without the opening voiceover entirely. I don't think it can live totally without the closing one, but the opening voiceover tells us immediately what Ray does for a living, and I kind of think I would have enjoyed the beginning of the film more if I didn't know that, because there's a lot of things we don't know, and the film has a really good sense of when to tell us stuff. So, like, at first, if you didn't have that voiceover, it's just a couple of guys in the city that for some reason are forced to go there by their employer. And you don't know why yet. And then, like, slowly the pins begin to fall, and it's like, oh man, they're hitmen, and oh man, he killed a kid, and oh man, he's there, the other guy's there to kill him, but doesn't even know it until the phone call happens. And so like yeah, they're hitmen, and then those other things you get to be surprised by. I think I would have liked to have been surprised by even the fact that they were hitmen.
Um, yeah, I guess, but I don't think the film's written for that because I don't think there's a scene where like if you take out the opening narration, I don't think there's a scene where it's like, oh, they're hitmen. Like I think it was always written with the intention that from the get go.
Well, that's totally fair, and I don't want to rewrite the movie, but I do think that when you find out that he killed a kid, like I'm gonna disagree with you. I think there is a scene for that. I think it's the flashback. I think that when he goes to the church, and I mean maybe you could have done this somehow without a flashback, but they do a flashback. He goes to a church, and I really like this. He tells the priest in confessional, "I kill people for money." And then he kills the priest. I think that's, I don't know, Eric. I think that's the scene. I think you could have left that voiceover out and found out he was a hitman right there.
Maybe you're right.
I think it would have been a little stronger that way. But like I said, I do like all the things we get to be surprised by. I enjoyed getting a picture of Harry in my head before I get to see him.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about Ray Fiennes because I feel like this is the first time I've ever seen him in a role like this. I feel like usually he's kind of, I mean, I guess Voldemort isn't really stuffy, but like I always picture he's way more laid back in this movie. I mean, he's kind of high strung, but like this is the first time I've seen him play like a guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, he's very intense, and he's certainly between the three of them the bad guy.
Well, and he's kind of a loose cannon compared to the other two, which is weird since he's the boss.
And yeah, and he's really unpredictable. You never know what he's going to do. And loose cannon is the right way to describe that guy. And everybody's scared of him.
Yeah.
But then he's also painted as a complete person with his own sense of convictions and stuff. Because when he has that scene with Ken, and Ken says that he's a terrible person and he's always going to be that way, and he has no capacity for change, but Ray does. I was very surprised at the end to find out that he was really serious about, if I killed a kid, I would kill myself.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
and I guess
really
I
surprised that he had that.
we should know he used to be a hitman too. We
And I think this movie is about how that profession changes people.
yeah. Well, and we have
And
three people that are the same profession. They're all very different places emotionally and psychologically.
Yeah, it's affected them in different ways, and not just being a hitman, but what they have done and chosen to do. Because I feel like Ken, if you didn't know he was a hitman, he seems like such a gentle person,
Yeah.
and somehow being a hitman doesn't seem to have really changed him, and yet. And yet it does too. It's really interesting because it's like okay, he doesn't have that social detachment that Ray has. He knows how to talk to people.
Well,
He seems to understand how to get along with people. And yet, he thinks it's perfectly acceptable to let this guy get away with killing a kid because he didn't do it on purpose. And so does he sort of have a little bit of that detachment? He doesn't look at the world the same way you and I do, but at first glance he seems to.
well, I think you have to have, or I would think you would have to have a slightly different worldview than most people if you are a hitman, because you're already okay with people dying.
Yeah, and he just sees it as a job. And as long as you're not a mark, you're a human being. And I feel like these other two guys have a hard time looking at people as human beings to various degrees.
Well, and he specifically says everyone he killed was a bad person except for one, and he remembers specifically the one. So I think he does have that detachment from his marks, but his marks are genuinely bad people. So it doesn't bother him the way it bothers the other ones, or it doesn't
He can
affect him.
justify it.
Yeah,
He feels like the world needs people like him.
yeah,
Whereas Ray is questioning that hard because he killed a kid. And he says a similar thing too, right? Like I killed bad people.
yeah.
But then when he does that, he feels like he's unhinged. And by the way, Colin Farrell has played a lot of characters like this.
I think this is one of Colin Farrell's best performances I've seen.
I think so too. Did you see Saving Mr. Banks?
No, I want to see it. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
So he's the dad in the flashbacks in that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's a somewhat, I mean, it's not the same thing as this, obviously, but it's a similar kind of casting in that he's playing a person who is who's kind of unhinged, and he's going through like a huge life crisis and doesn't know what he wants and what he wants the world to be anymore. And he seems to really play that really well. This very emotionally unstable, antisocial kind of character.
Yeah, well, but he also does smooth well. I mean, he's got that down in
No,
Fright Night.
absolutely.
But well,
Yeah, I don't mean he can only. I don't. Yeah, I loved him in Fright Night. I don't mean that he can only play this kind of character, but he does it well, and he gets cast that way in different. And also, I do have to mention Bullseye. It's kind of funny seeing him play a hitman who's actually questioning being a hitman.
well, what I think is interesting is that when Colin Farrell showed up, he was the new hotness. Like this is the new face of cool. And as his career's gone on, he really has played mostly or largely kind of more internal characters. I mean,
Yeah,
the
which is very surprising.
the scene where uh, Ray and Ken are sitting on the bench and Ray just breaks down is he's so good in that scene. It was like it wasn't movie crying. It was
No,
real crying.
no, and that was a wonderfully tense scene. I complain all the time about things that are like too convenient in movies. And I'm always impressed when a movie can convince me of a coincidence because coincidences do happen. And we can't write things where we never have a coincidence, but you have to make me buy it. When Ken is coming up to kill him and then he pulls a gun to his head and he just happens to be there at the time that he's about to kill himself, the movie made me buy that coincidence.
Well, and what I loved about that is that I felt like that scene kind of encapsulated the film in that it's kind of funny. He's about to kill this guy, and then he's about to kill himself, and he's like, "No, don't do that." Like inherently, that's kind of funny, but it's really at the same time it's really tragic, and it's really kind of what's the word? Heart something. Um,
Heart wrenching?
Not heart wrenching. I don't know. It's a single scene, and it's really
Yeah.
just that moment there that has so many different layers to it.
Well, and I think that is maybe the most essential moment in the film because it informs everything that happens after it, but it also tells us exactly who Ken is as a character. And I felt like he ended up being a pretty endearing kind of character. Because I really like the scene later when and I thought this was pretty tense too when he and Ken are right out in the open, and or when he and Harry, I'm sorry, are right out in the open, and you're before they start talking about it, you're wondering if Harry isn't just going to pull out a pistol and shoot him right there in front of everybody.
Right.
And because if you haven't seen the film, the idea is he's got to kill him because he refused to do the job, and Ray has to die because they do have a certain kind of moral code, and that moral code includes you can't kill children. So they're standing there talking, and I loved it when they went into Harry's tirade of, look, you had this chance to let everything take care of itself. All you had to do was stand there and let him kill himself. It would have solved my problem, and it would have solved your problem, because you didn't want to have to kill him, and I needed him dead. And why couldn't you do that? And I think it's really interesting how Ken throws himself on a pyre for this guy.
Oh, almost literally.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, well, and his whole speech to Harry at the top of the bell tower is really good.
yeah.
And then the film goes a little bit meta, and he's like, "How am I supposed to kill you? How am I supposed to kill you after you say something like that?"
Yeah, but they seem like real people that
Oh no,
way.
absolutely.
He seems like a human being, and I thought when they brought him in, I thought this was going to be the guy who wasn't human. I thought this was going to be the guy who this job has turned this guy into a complete
Yeah, this
monster.
is the guy from Hitman.
And Ken yeah. And by the way, this whole movie made me want to play that game.
The
Ken,
movie about the consequences of being a hitman made you want to play
I
a game.
know, because of the atmosphere, because that game is really atmospheric,
Okay.
and the tension at whatever. I don't have to explain myself to you,
No, it's fine.
but. And there's a lot of Europe in that game. Whatever, forget you. But no, I gotta ask you about this. I kind of didn't understand why he shot him in the leg.
I think he had to shoot him.
Just on the principle of the thing, it was like,
Yeah,
look, I can't let you. I gotta shoot you.
I
But
think
then,
he has a line like that where he's like, "We didn't think I wasn't going to shoot you somehow."
yeah, he does. But then it does ultimately kind of come off like he needed to get shot in order for things to turn out the way they did after that.
Okay, here's what kind of confused me.
Okay.
All right, so he shoots him in the leg, and they're going down the stairs, and they're
Yeah.
kind of okay with each other. And then the second that uh, the Cyclops guy, um, I don't remember what his name is. He only has one eye.
Oh yeah.
The blind kid, which
The
I want
blind
to talk about.
beside
That's
the blank.
yeah, that was brilliant. When he's like, "It just got blanks," and then he's like, "That's fine." Um,
And then he's never gonna see out of that eye again.
and then Harry has this whole speech where he's like, "Well, that's kind of your fault now, isn't it? You attacked him and you gave him
That
blood."
was really funny. Harry basically, Harry, he has this whole explanation, and he's like, "See why this is a problem." And Harry's like, "I don't really understand this. You're an idiot."
But okay, so they're going down the stairs, and the blind kid comes up and says that Ray's in the town. He's back, and I understand Ken immediately going to stop Harry, but Harry's immediate first reaction is to turn and attack Ken. That felt weird.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, I understood it on Ken's side, but not Harry's.
No, I'm totally with you. That was strange.
I feel like maybe it was just like choreographed wrong. Like maybe it is just supposed to be that Ken goes to stop Harry and then Harry turns. Harry just fights back type of thing. But he just immediately turns and attacks Ken. Uh,
Yeah, I had exactly the same thing. And again, I feel like if I watch this once or twice more, certain things like that might suddenly come together. Because sometimes you have that where once you've seen a whole movie, then things that happen earlier start to inform what happened later because you know it already. So maybe some of that would come together. None of those questions or confusions kill the movie, though.
oh no, not at all.
It is quite good. The thing that I took most from it, the big thematic thing that I loved the most, was the notion that Ray doesn't like history and Ken does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a really normal human thing.
Yeah, but what I liked about it was that it was, and you don't know about the kid yet when they start talking about that, and it is informed by his own past. This is about the way these two men look at the past versus the future. Ken doesn't like history because he did something he can't take back,
Right.
and he wishes that because he now understands the situation, that he could just go back in time and stop that from ever happening. This idea that one little event could change everything scares the crap out of him, and ergo he doesn't like history. I would have liked to have seen this man 5 years before this go to a town like this and see how he reacts to museums. I don't think it would have been the same thing. And Ken doesn't have that. And what's interesting is Ken has the opportunity to do the very same thing. Um, if he had killed Ray, if he had killed his friend, and that was a horrible thing he couldn't take back, but he felt like he had to do it, he might start to feel somewhat like Ray does. But the difference is in the way the two men are,
Right.
and so he doesn't do that. I really dug all that because it wasn't an arbitrary character choice,
Yeah. No. No. It's
and it wasn't an arbitrary choice in sending them to that city.
well.
And
It's a thing about this whole movie. Uh, Everything feels incredibly intentional and symbolic, and some of it I don't really know what it's symbolic of. I need to watch a couple more times.
yeah,
But everything means something. I didn't really even think about the history thing, but yeah, you're right. That's totally what that is.
yeah, and it's that kind of movie where you can take a lot of things from it. There's probably a lot of different ways to interpret certain things, which of course I always love. I mean, I'm such a character guy. This is a great character study up until the third act, and then I have reservations about Ray's choices and why he makes them. But like I said, I feel like I need another viewing. I would not sit down right now and write an analysis of this movie. I would spend some time with it. But like, but yeah, there are some things that I wonder what they're supposed to represent. And the nice thing, of course, is that it's not a stupid artsy fartsy kind of film where it's like, okay, we have these things and aren't we cool because we're forcing in symbolism? No, it's like there are pieces that are part of the story that that have subtext and undercurrent. So you could totally miss the symbolism and the story would still more or less make
Oh
sense.
yeah, the characters still work perfectly fine.
And I think the structure is great. I think the movie is very good at introducing things at the right time and then paying them off and doing stuff with them later. So like
That fat Americans joke, the fact that that came back, I thought was hysterical.
yeah, I was surprised, but yeah, that was great. And then even just like the introduction to the lady that runs the hotel,
Yep.
and then she has things to do at the end, and then of course the little person that you don't really expect that he's gonna maybe factor that much into the story, and then he ends up being a big part, especially toward the end. And I want to talk about that because I found myself wondering. The biggest thing I wondered, what is this representative of? What is this? I hate the word symbolic. What is this symbolic of? Was little people versus children.
Well,
Something going on there. It's making some kind of point about that. About little people look like kids, but they aren't, versus Ray had growing up to do. There's something going on there, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
I'm not sure. I thought you were going to talk about. I don't know what the symbolicness of the film is.
Yeah.
The fact that they're making a movie there.
Oh yeah, good
Because
call.
at first I was like, is this going to be like a thing where like they're kind of making the movie that we're watching? But
But
then
then we never know what the movie's about.
no, but and then we know for sure it's not this movie because we see all those crazy costumes.
Yeah, and then you really got to wonder what it is. And I sort of loved having no idea.
Well, I couldn't figure out if it was a gag or if it was supposed to mean something that they're making a movie here.
I wondered that too. But then with the little people, like they're saying something about smallness and children and stuff.
And blacks and
And
whites apparently.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of stuff about social class and racism
Well, there's a
and
lot about like just nationalism, really,
right. Yes,
or or
nationalism over racism.
or
Yeah.
stereotyping by nationality. Um,
Yeah, you're right. Even nationality over ethnicity.
yeah. Uh,
Um,
but
and then, like we don't even really explore sexism very much, but we do explore heightism.
yeah. Well, and I guess we should say I like the first act of this movie. I thought this was going to be a completely different movie. I thought this was going to be one of those movies where it's just kind of like two people going from place to place, having witty. Like I thought this was almost going to be like a Kevin Smith movie where it's
Yeah,
just.
I had the same thing where it's just people talking and they explore ideas and the plot is kind of in the background.
And then when you get to the second act, it really starts like moving towards a direction.
Yeah, and it turns into a thriller. Did you not have this where it started subverting my expectations so much that I just stopped trying to guess where it was going?
Yeah, well, it's the one that got me was when he was on the boat, when he jumps and
Yeah,
there's a boat, and in any other movie, if there's a boat and you jump on it, you get away.
yeah.
Although that.
That was another coincidence thing where I was kind of okay with it because it's like, well, it's a city surrounded by water. There's probably boats quite frequently.
Yeah. Although this is a really minor thing, I was kind of annoyed there was no reaction from the driver.
Yeah, yeah. No, I had that too, and also, okay, I did have this. They have that foot chase. And I'm sure some people might watch this and feel like, okay, it's this like uh, it's this very intimate kind of movie, and then it kind of degenerates into a foot chase. I didn't feel like that, but I'm sure some people might watch this and feel
Oh
that
no, I
way.
didn't feel that way at all.
But here's the thing that I thought was weird. Harry is pretty close to him when they're running. I also thought it was kind of funny that they're both obviously really out of shape.
Yeah.
But like, so he's shooting him, and he's not point blank, but he's pretty close and he misses every time. And then when he gets on that boat, he hits him first shot out.
But he's not moving, and he's able to take his time and aim his shot.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
It's one of those things where I wondered if I should question it or not.
I feel like we've talked a lot about the symbology and the themes and the characters. We should make sure we reiterate this is a really funny movie.
It is a very funny movie, and it's not. I don't know. Black comedy is not always my thing. I thought the comedy worked in conjunction with the drama. Like if they had played the comedy too hard and they just made the whole thing like a laugh every minute, it would not have worked at all.
Which is in the first act what I thought this film was going to be. And I'm glad it turned out to not be that. But that seemed to be the kind of movie they were making at the beginning of it. Um,
It seems to be the movie that they advertised. Because I went and looked at posters and stuff, and they make this thing look like a quirky, dark romp.
that's funny.
And ultimately, it's really not that. It seems to be more a movie about people who diffuse tense situations with humor or who just get weirdly preoccupied by things right in the middle of tense
Well,
situations.
or even just that, like, this is kind of a really dramatic movie, and the writer just has like a quick wit.
Yeah.
Like it's.
But I feel like they made it work. It didn't feel like a real heightened kind of movie necessarily. Maybe it's supposed to be a heightened sort of thing. But for me, it was sort of just these people are like this. Maybe partly because of where they're from and because of their profession. But then you notice that like you have characters like the woman that runs the hotel, who when they stop everything to this was one of the funniest moments
Oh
I thought
yeah.
when they stop everything to make the plan of when he's gonna go to jump in the water and all of that. That was
You're
great.
gonna go
But she,
right. I don't want to run out there and then wait 5 minutes and have to come back in here.
she goes, "You guys are crazy,"
Well,
and
and I
I
guess
really like that. Not everyone in the movie is like them.
no, it's almost nobody in the movie is like them because now that I'm thinking about it, even when like when Colin Farrell attacks the Canadians that he thinks are American, he's saying these things and like they're like, "What are you talking about?" He's like tell that to the Vietnamese, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" Tell that to the vet. Saying it again doesn't make it more clear. Makes perfect sense.
Well, and I think it's always funny to watch people trying to be polite when they're doing horrible things to people.
Well, actually,
That gag never gets old, and it's a very European thing, right?
yeah.
It's like above everything, we're going to be polite. We're going to have niceties. And we're going to act like civilized people. And don't you think that was Harry's whole thing? Was that we can't kill children because it's uncivilized?
Well, there was this weird thing because they make a big deal when he sits down with Ken about how they're going to go somewhere and kill him. And then he just foot chases and shoots running through the crowd. Like like there's a switch there where it's, well, we have to do this kind of privately and not involve other people, to he's just chasing him through the city shooting.
Yeah, which seemed kind of supposed to be like a moment of desperation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if everybody would 100% buy that. Like he could have been a little bit more stealthy about it, but I think he was so taken off guard. He was so surprised because he didn't expect that guy to even still be in the city.
Well, and he was,
Like this is my last chance to get him, because remember he thought he was about to have to do an all-out manhunt all over Europe for this guy.
well, and I mean, if nothing else, he was probably unnerved just by what happens to Ken. I mean, he didn't. It seems like he doesn't even hear it. He just walks out and then sees Ken on the ground.
Yeah, that's a good call too, and that would unnerve anybody.
Um, but it's just, this is a really deep movie with a lot of things going on. And I think the uh, the writer has only done one other film, which is Seven Psychopaths, which also stars Colin Farrell and is also really good, and has kind of a similar tone. I feel like that one's more comedy than this one is. But
I haven't seen that yet. I keep meaning to, but that's interesting that that's the same writer.
it's the same writer director. But before this, he's a playwright.
Oh, that you know what? That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, he's done a
This
lot
is
of
a
plays.
very dialogue-driven film, and I could see this movie adapted to the stage easy.
Yep. So yeah, that's where he comes from. The only one I've heard of his plays I'm looking at is Pillow Man. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but
I
it's
haven't.
they put on a production of it at a local theater, which I didn't see, but from what I understand, it's about somebody who smothers people to death with pillows.
Wow.
So
He's very into hitmen.
yeah, he likes darkness. I don't know if Pillow Man's funny or not. But I was going somewhere with this whole, he did
Sorry.
Seven Psychopaths, and well, it's his first film, and it's a gorgeous first film.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, the cinematography is fantastic. They use every inch of that city.
You see directors that have been working for 20 years that don't make films as beautiful as this.
No, I mean clearly his heart was in it. You got to wonder. You know, I'd like to do some research on this movie. You got to wonder what his background with that city is and why he chose that place.
Yeah, I wonder if he lives there or was raised there or something.
Yeah, or if maybe he had to go there for a while and didn't like it.
Yeah. Oh, the blind guy, the guy that gets shot with the blank.
Yeah,
His name is Jeremy Renner.
that's funny.
But there's a bunch of like things above the letters, so it's probably not pronounced Jeremy.
Well, I think we've kind of done our due diligence with this movie.
This one kind of feels like Chinatown, where I almost kind of want to come back in a couple of years and review it again, having seen it a
Me
couple more
too.
times.
Yeah, where we said we'd do this, so we're doing it, but then we don't feel 100% qualified in talking about it yet.
Yeah, no, there's this film has so many layers. I feel like this is one of those movies where like every time I watch it, I'll probably pick up on like something else.
Yeah, I mean, it really makes you think. It really challenges you. And like I said, I think my favorite thing about it, besides the score, I think my favorite thing about it is that I never know where it's going. Like when Harry calls Ken up and says you have to go kill this guy, I figured the whole rest of the movie was going to be a cat and mouse kind of game.
Oh man, That's one of my favorite funny bits. Is Harry's tirade about how can it not be somebody's thing? It's a fairy town village.
It's a fairy tale, and they just keep saying that. That was great. Well, hey, Eric, for next time, I'm going to see your Colin Farrell, and I'm going to raise you a Gene Hackman.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to watch The Conversation, which is another thriller. This is from 1974. It's a psychological thriller. It's by Francis Ford Coppola. Of course, everybody's heard of this. Eric and I just have never watched it. This is another one of those things, sort of like Chinatown, where it's like we were remiss in having never watched
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
And so we're gonna do it. I want to make sure that we get in when we do Netflix Roulette each summer, that we get in some of this kind of stuff where it's like, oh, here's a major film we should have watched but didn't. So
They just put Annie Hall on Netflix. I've never seen Annie Hall. Maybe.
Oh, okay, we might do that. This movie was nominated for Best Picture and lost to The Godfather Part 2.
That makes sense. I mean, not having seen it, everyone loves The Godfather Part 2.
So we can at least be pretty sure that there's a good film here.
Yeah, or hopefully,
or at least a significant.
Hopefully,
film.
Everyone's not crazy.
Yeah, because it's not like that hasn't happened before.
What did they see in this?
Well, hopefully that's not our review. I've been looking forward to seeing that. I love Gene Hackman. So anyway, we are going to do this one for next time. And Eric, thanks so much for picking In Bruges. That was a fabulous movie.
Yeah, I'm glad that I started us off on a good foot.
Yeah, I am too. Because last time we started off with, I think, a couple of not so great movies.
Yeah, well, I think the first two was we did John Dies at the End, and then I think the second one was that time travel movie.
Oh god, that was the dullest thing we've ever done. We should do a commentary on that movie.
There would be nothing to say, and there's airplanes, and they're flying. Look how cool they are.
We'd start talking about, like, Christmas.
Colin Farrell.
Yeah. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks again, as always, for watching. We'll be back with you here very shortly with The Conversation. And in the meantime, I'm Captain Logan.
We're going to have a conversation about the conversation.
About the conversation.
I'm Eric.
See you later.